There's just no way we'll ever have the technical knowledge and expertise. We won't have the time. We won't have the things of that nature. But what we can do is we can provide specific, targeted, value add push where necessary on specific projects when there's specific opportunities arise. And that just comes as it comes. And you just, as a council member, have to be aware of what's going on and be able to seize upon those opportunities when they come about. And a lot of this has to do with relationships. I mean, we have to have good relationships with our colleagues. I mean, I have a state senator who's a Republican and a House representative member who's a Democrat, and we work together on stormwater and transportation issues all the time. And it's very important that we work with everybody, no matter how they fit into the ideological or partisan framework that we have. And Josh Dix mentioned Arthur Ravenel, who passed away recently. He came from a generation of legislators that it was about bringing home the bacon to your district. And whether it was him or whether it was Senator Thurmond or Senator Hollings, I mean, listen, I'm not sitting here talking about everything they've done or things of that nature, but they were all committed to bringing things back home to Charleston. And I think we've maybe gotten away from that a little bit politically, where it's a lot more about, what books are in libraries and just some of the silliness you see in state legislatures and federal, elected officials. And I think it's incumbent upon us to impress upon our elected officials at all levels that it's about bringing it home, and we're going to hold them accountable to that. And we're going to develop a culture around here where it's about supporting Charleston and supporting what we need to have done around here. And so we were able to get $1.5 million out of the state legislature last session to fund the Windermere Basin project. That was due to some good coordination with Representative Stavronakis. We've thanked him on the floor already for this, and we'll thank him again. But I want to be clear, there's no way I could have done that on my own. That requires liaising with the mayor's office, with Matt, because they're the ones that have all the knowledge and expertise on the specific projects. They have the data, they have the information that needs to be submitted. So it's a constant coordinated cycle that has to happen here. And it's really incumbent upon us to take up, that oar and work with everybody on getting what we need to have done around here. Thanks.
Councilmember Shealy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Parker, for bringing this up. Appreciate that. I think it's a good discussion. I did want to let you know that through the National League of Cities, we have opportunities. We need to be going. We got a Washington trip coming up in 2 months. We need to be going to National League of Cities. They help us. I was just trying to pull it up, and I was talking to Councilman Boyd about it a little bit, that I have access to grantwriter.com because I went to National League of Cities. I think everybody has access to that, where you can look up every grant that's available out there, and you can put in key terms and that type of thing. But I found that out through National League of Cities. I've heard them talk about when we got our grant writer, it was because people were going, you need a grant writer. You need a grant writer working on this. And I came back saying, guys, we need a grant writer. That's what National League of Cities is telling me. But another great thing that happens at National League of Cities is the Municipal Association of South Carolina has what they call the Day on the Hill. So last time I was in Washington, I got to sit down with Lindsey Graham face to face. And but you have your day on the Hill to talk to your local representatives up, your national representatives for your area up there. So, Madam Clerk, I would suggest that we make sure we have some representatives up there at at National League of Cities this year, and that we're involved with the Municipal Association of South Carolina while we're up there. I think it'll help with a lot of what you're looking for. So thank you.
Councilmember Mitchell.
Councilmember Parker, I'm glad you happy you brought this up. And being here as long as I did so far as the National League of Cities, if you check and see how many classes I've attended the National League of Cities, and one of the main graduated from the Municipal Association of the state of South Carolina, and that was way back when. As soon as I got on council, I went there. Also went to the first timers. We have a class for first timers who just got elected. So now you're elected now what to attend those particular class, to attend those particular classes, so you could know how to go through and through the rudiments and how to guide yourself through things. And I always did advise our new colleagues to go and attend those particular classes so you can be familiarized with what's going on so far as being elected officials. And also on the National League of Cities, they have that also. They have it there that you can attend those particular classes, and you get a lot of information from there, a lot of information. And when you come back, you say, oh my God, I didn't know all this is going on. But you'll be familiarized with it, and you'll know exactly how to navigate through certain things. And even with our lobbyists, I agree with it. We can have the lobbyists come every quarter to explain to us what's going on, because we did it in the past. We did that in the past. We used to have him come here every once in a while and just tell us what's happening, what's going on, what he's doing. And he's explaining to us what he's doing there. And the grants, like I say, the staff, I used to write the federal grants too when I was working. I'm not going to do it anymore, but I'm just, just saying that I used to do it. And it's a lot of work, time consuming. It's a lot of work, putting all the pieces together, going to different municipalities and getting information to include into your grant. You have to do all those things with the federal grants. And as I stated when Councilman Gregory said, no more work, I think we got enough of meeting going on to me. I attend so many meetings. I mean, I get calls, people be calling me and say, Councilman, we're at another meeting. I have a whole heap a lot of meetings. I mean, some of you all as colleagues might don't have to attend as many meetings that I have to attend. But I'm going so much, I said, man, there's too many meetings I'm attending. And I go to all of my meetings, all my neighborhood association meetings, 7 of them. I attend all of it, except Radcliffe Borough. I think Councilman Seekins normally go to that one. And that's an additional one that I can't get to that one all the time because some of us on the same date. But I attend all of my meetings, and it's a lot. It's a lot. Being a council member, you said you're giving services back to the community, but it's a lot. And to take on more, then you're not going to be able to give the time that you should give to the meetings that you're going to. Something's going to go lacking. So having all these different meetings, I'm a person, I don't believe in all that bunch of meetings anyway. Let's get the work done, and we have people who are doing the meeting, let's be informed of what's going on and go to the individuals that supposed to be doing what they're supposed to do. The staff is there. Call the staff and say, hey, I see this is going on. Let's go and do this. Once you go and seek into this to see if there's something that we can do here in the city of Charleston, then if you bring it back to the floor of council, we can say, okay, and explain to us, we can go and vote on it up or down. But to have another meeting, we have to attend another meeting, it's a lot. It's a lot. And some of us are not going to be able to make it anyway to the meetings because so much things are going on because they only have so many days in the week. So I agree that we need to have our lobbyists come here sometimes so you all can know who the lobbyists are, because some half of you don't even know who the lobbyists are. I have met them, but some of us don't even know they have a lobbyist. You heard that we have a lobbyist, but don't even know what's going on with it. So that'll be good for the council members, you elected council members or council members who are here now that have never met none of the lobbyists that we have in Washington and on the state level. So I have met them period of times for being here and seeing what they're doing and explain to us what they're doing and what they're getting involved in and how they're trying to navigate through certain things. And in the state of South Carolina, calling the legislative like we do, but I'm gonna tell you something about the state of South Carolina, and I'll say it publicly. We do not have the power in the state as others have, as Greenville, Spartanburg, and places. I'm telling you that as fact, because we don't have that power. So they have to get our legislative, and they have to fight hard to get their colleagues to even go along with them. So they got to be in that state and have their colleagues that respect them enough to be able to support them on issues that comes up. So we have to look into all these things. And even from Washington, D.C., I have big contacts in D.C. also. I can jump on the phone and call Clyburn, Congressman Clyburn, it's like I can call any one of you all here. You see, so it's a lot of different aspects. And even when Lindsey Graham's office there, he was the first, when I used to write the grant, he was the first one sign off on it. And I can call his office also. He knows my name because they was sending everything to me while I was working. You see, so these things, you make the contact, and it's not about the political preference that you are. It's what we need to get done for the city of Charleston. And we can get it done, but just knowing, and that's about it. Thank you.
Councilmember Brady.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll complete the baker's dozen here. But I think sometimes the simplest solution is often the one that's right in front of you. And that would be similar to how we get our emergency management update, similar to how we get other periodic staff updates, similar to how the resolution was placed on petitions and communications. Why would we not just once a quarter put a state and federal advocacy update and have the report come out and just mention what's going on? And then that way the full body gets to hear it. And if we notice that there's anything glaring that's not mentioned in the report that we think should come up, the full body has the ability to do that. And it's a meeting that we're all already at. So there's no extra drive time for Councilmember Gregory to come to another meeting. But that way everybody gets weighed in on, and it's in the public forum that would have the most people kind of involved. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. And thank you, Councilwoman Parker, for bringing that up.
Thank you. If I may make a few remarks, I'd like to. So thank you for bringing this up. Great conversation. Let me say a couple things. First of all, getting grants for the city of Charleston is a team sport. And we are all on this team because we all have the same goal in mind, is to get as much grant funding to the benefit of our citizens as we possibly can, right? So the front line of that team, though, is our city staff. And I know we got Sarah, kind of overall grant coordinator right now, but the city's been getting grants for years and years. And each one of our departments, part of their job is to try to be aware of what's out there. Jason Kronsberg, he applies for PARD grants for parks. Gianna goes through CDBG to see if she can get extra grants. Meg Thompson got a grant from EDA last year. Matt Fountain, there are innumerable grants that we've been pursuing. We even tried in the planning department. So each department is supposed to be looking in their realm to see if there's any availability. And the police department and the fire department do an incredible job with all the Department of Justice grants that come down. All these fire station renovations we've been doing for before I became mayor, but ever since as well, it's all been FEMA grants that the fire department has pursued. So they do an amazing job. But I got to tell you, somebody said it's complex. It has been, it's even gotten more so. And so everything that we can do as a team, you are all hereby empowered to find out as much as you can about anything that interests you and come to us, say, did you know about this grant opportunity? We will look at it. Now, sometimes we look at things, and for the amount of money and the time you have to put into preparing it and the likelihood of success, we'll say, gee, that's probably not a good use of our time. But, we will look at those opportunities as they come along. I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors meeting last Thursday and Friday in Washington myself, and they had the secretaries of the various administration come speak to the mayors. It's mind-boggling the opportunities that are out there. I mean, the Department of Commerce has 13 divisions. They each have their own grant opportunities. I mean, it's a science, and there are companies that even just disseminate information about grant opportunities in various areas. It is mind-boggling. So it's more than just the lobbyists. It's our own staff. It's and our lobbyists work on other advocacy that don't involve grants. Sometimes they're, working on some policy matter for us as well. But the conversation here, be it at Ways and Means Committee, where we have to, by the way, approve every grant application and accept every grant that comes into the city. So in my mind, that'd be a logical place to have that presentation, not just from our lobbyists, but from our key staff members who are involved in grant applications. And if I may, just on two other points, all the state money that came down, Councilmember Waring, most of our requests were for flooding and drainage related type of projects. And so what happened after that initial conversation, they have all this money, and they did, they ended up putting 800 million of it specifically for clean water, wastewater, and stormwater applications through the RIA. which is Division of State Government, and we've been applying for those grants. But that big pot of money for those kinds of things didn't get doled out like in the regular budget process, like you were successful getting through Representative Stabenakis. Now, I was with our lobbyists in Washington also on Friday. We went to visit Congresswoman Mace's staff. She wasn't there, but her staff was there. It's real important to get to know the staff of our congressional leaders in Washington. They, like our staff here in the city, they get down in the weeds and do the work and really help us with these grant applications. And I want to publicly thank Congressman Clyburn and Senator Graham and Congresswoman Mace, particularly for their leadership. The federal budget that passed at the end of December included the opportunity for us to move forward with our perimeter protection plan, and they allocated $13 million for the Corps of Engineers as for their participation to get that started. We still got to, get to an agreement with them, and also that's going to come later this year. But that was approved. But one other thing that I don't think many people have heard yet is that Congresswoman Mace put in an additional authorization, which was approved in the budget, for over $25 million for the city of Charleston for stormwater and wastewater projects, over $25 million. Now, it's a long trip from an authorization, I've found, to getting a project that's vetted by the Corps and then get the money actually appropriated to where we get a check from them to do the project. But the whole thing doesn't start until you get the authorization. So I want to publicly thank Congresswoman Mace and her staff for putting that in the federal budget. We have the opportunity to earn, so to speak, $25 million of federal funding to go to stormwater projects in the city of Charleston. And that was a terrific work of her and her office, in addition to the other work that Clyburn and Senator Graham have been working on. So anyway, we'll come back to you with reports from both. And I see Rick Giroux jumping up, see if I said something wrong.
No. Based on the conversation we had at last council meeting, our lobbyists are going to be here for a workshop on February 21st to answer all the kind of questions, what they're doing, what they're working on. So both the state and federal lobbyists will be here on the 21st.
Right. And that'll be a standalone workshop since he's not here all the time. But we can do a regular update for all grant stuff. And once again, this is a team sport. I welcome any recommendations or any avenues you want to pursue. We'll look at anything out there. There's too many possibilities out there for one person to get their head around the whole thing. It is a team effort. Councilmember Ware.
Yeah, just one last, I thought Councilmember Brady's suggestion was excellent. So I hope on the other side of this, we will know what the action step is going to be. I think, again, great conversation.
Great. Thank you. Councilmember Parker.
Good. So just, I get it. I think I heard from everyone. Please understand, I mean, we created an ad hoc rules committee. So I didn't think that grant and lobbying going for millions and millions of dollars was really that far out there, but heard you loud and clear. So anyway, so leaving it there, I mean, so our quarterly update, we're going to look at doing them in city council meetings. Is that sort of where we're leaving our staff with this notion?
I'm fine with either city council or Ways and Means, but I want everybody around this table when we talk about it, not just a select few, but everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's full. You think it's good? But like so let's say, so Richard is saying we're having a workshop. I mean, I don't know what kind of, is it just going to be a presentation? Can we do something like that quarterly? Okay, but you want to do it in Ways and Means.
Well, we'll do it.
Okay.
The workshop that Rick mentioned is just kind of a special thing because our lobbyists from Washington happen to be coming to Charleston,
Okay,
they might not be here for a regular city council meeting. So
okay.
it's better to accommodate them.
And again, just one other thing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for saying it, the whole, this idea too, is it's a team effort. This
Absolutely.
was certainly one way that brings us all talking about what the city needs, not just in our districts, but what the city needs as a whole. I mean, we see the resolutions coming out of community development tonight, items like those are things that we should, I hope that we should be seeing more of as a body, not just singular districts or certain things like that. So that was the hope, that the team effort. All right,
God
thank you,
bless.
everyone.
I think you accomplished the mission. Thank you. Okay, next to our council committee reports. First up is Committee on Human Resources, Councilmember Gregory.
The Committee on Human Resources met on Thursday, the 12th at 4:00. And we had 3 agenda items, none of which required approval. There were updates. And the 2020 year-end report on staffing and recruitment was sort of important for us to look at to see whether or not there was any change between 21 and 22 in terms of recruitment, hiring, application process, et cetera. And from what I gleaned is there's little difference between 22 and 21, but however, in 23, given the increase in salaries, et cetera, we're hoping that the staffing and recruitment will see a vast difference. The update on COLA and the update on family leave policy is consistent with what everybody is already aware of. 6 weeks, et cetera. So there was nothing to vote on. I request that we just accept this as information.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? I'm going to make just one. Another team sport is recruiting new employees. We can all recruit new employees. We got lots of positions open, and I ask y'all all to be aware of our open positions and be out there recruiting, because we are now positioned to be able to bring some new employees on board. Next up is Committee on Community Development, Councilmember Mitchell.
Development meeting was held January 13th at 3 p.m. and we had a couple of items there. And the first one was an ordinance to amend Article 2 Land Use Regulation, Part 2 Permitted Uses Based Zoning. And I have to get my notes too. And that was approved. And this is really giving the information that they can do additional units, more units in the city of Charleston. And it was the second one. Well, we need to go to ordinance first because I got approval for the ordinance first. That's number 1. If anyone have any questions. I get a motion. Okay, and then we move on down to number 2, 3, and 4, and 5 was all resolutions. And we had
Let's take
we took
action on
the
number
first one
1 first.
on the ordinance first.
We took
Yes, we
action
did
on
already.
this during our public hearing.
Yeah,
It's already approved for
it's already
tonight.
approved. So
Right, so we're good.
we have to go with that again. And
Yeah.
so the
But
rest
on
of
the
those,
resolutions,
the resolution, all of the resolution was approved. And if you have any questions, I have Ms. Johnson here. If you wouldn't have any question to ask.
I think we got a motion to approve the resolutions.
resolutions,
that
all the
committee
resolutions.
approved. And we had a second on that, correct? So any discussion about any of those resolutions, 2, 3, 4, and 5?
Correct.
Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you, sir. Next up is our Special Committee on Traffic and Transportation. Special meeting, I think it was. Yeah. Councilmember Seekings.
So thank you, Mr. Mayor, and there was a motion and a second, but I do think I should report at least for a couple minutes on what's about to happen, if you don't mind. So we did have a special meeting of the Traffic and Transportation Committee. When was that? yesterday. Thank you.
Yesterday.
It seems like forever ago. And it was not to take any specific action, but it was to get an update from our public safety team on the progress that's been made on Upper King Street since not just May of 2020, but May of 2021, when we adopted certain measures on Upper King Street to try to do some things, as well as we got an update on future activity plan for further efforts to make it safer and more hospitable on Upper King Street. Really, as the mayor said in his speech tonight, some enhancements. So as you know, following a string of fairly regrettable violent acts on Upper King Street, the police chief and his team, Mr. Somerville and his team, the mayor and his team all put their heads together to think about things that we can do to make King Street safer. One-way traffic was implemented, increased police presence. If you haven't been up there on a Thursday and Friday or Saturday night, I invite you to come and join us up there just to see sort of what's going on. We actually revised our late night ordinance to make some improvements, to take a look at some businesses that probably weren't as compliant as they should have been. I see Ms. Thompson over there and she knows what I'm talking about. So all of these things, by and large, have made things better. I think that we can all agree with that. I don't see Captain Bruder here tonight, but I think he would agree that, and to keep the area moving and flowing. But what has been identified on Upper King Street is something that's really helped in the public safety realm and made King Street a better place and more hospitable, particularly at nights, on weekends when it's busy, is addressing the issues of stagnation and congregation and gathering on the street. And one of the things that was recommended was to give the public safety team more space to operate and to make it feel less of a daunting place to be. Stagnation and congregation were really issues up there and have continued to be. So one of the things that we put in place was a no parking policy from 6 o'clock until basically the close of business on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights on Upper King Street. And we've been doing that since May of 2021, if y'all didn't know that. And just for y'all's information, a couple things. Since the beginning of that policy in May of 2021, our teams have issued, go ahead, yes. How many tickets have we given on a Thursday, Friday, or Saturday night on Upper King Street since May of 2021? Well, none would not be the right answer. 3,767. 3,767, despite the fact that Ms. Thompson and her team, all the PEOs out there, the police and everyone has made it very clear that it is a no parking zone on those nights. Since just this year, since this year began, 868. So some people thought, well, maybe it's a college problem. All these college kids are parking up there. There wasn't college in place. But clearly, and if you go up and see it, it's congregation and stagnation that's been a problem. And it has been. I mean, those parking spaces have been used as places for people who are not coming to King Street to patronize restaurants or bars. They're coming to basically hang out on King Street. So it's been a simple, right? It is, and it has led to some really regrettable and unfortunate situations. So it has been recommended, and we've been long looking at this. It has finally been recommended that we implement a policy that the police department has wanted to implement for a while. And that is, instead of giving out tickets on Thursday and Friday and Saturday nights, now we're actually going to start towing cars that are illegally parked up there. And that is going to begin February 9th after additional warnings, notifications to everyone in the world that this is coming. So y'all may remember, I hope you do, because she was really wonderful and I miss her dearly. Sue Griffin. Y'all remember Sue Griffin? She was clearly a first ballot unanimous inductee into the City of Charleston Hall of Fame, right? I mean, she was. And y'all remember when we started to do towing in the neighborhoods for street sweeping? Remember what Sue Griffin did? She grabbed a bullhorn and she ran up and down the streets to warn people that it was coming. Now, we may not be that extreme this time, but we are going to give plenty of warning and notice to people who come along and park illegally on Upper King Street on Thursday and Friday and Saturday nights, that if you continue to do so, you will have to go and visit Jennings to retrieve your car. So this is not something I believe is a matter of policy that needed to be voted on. We didn't vote on it, but no one objected at TNT. The police department, from public safety perspective, wants us to do this. We need to do this. So just fair warning to everybody out there who's watching and listening, starting the second week in February, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights, if you park on Upper King Street from, Meg, help me, what's the southern street? From John to Spring Street, you will, again, have to get an Uber up to Jennings. I do want to thank Mr. Somerville, Jason Bruder, and Meg Thompson. They've worked tirelessly up there on Upper King Street. And I do recommend you all to go up there and just take a look at what's going on. It's gotten better. There's still some improvements that need to be made, but the one-way traffic, the increased police presence, the tightening up of the late night ordinance, and now that we're going to give our public safety teams a little bit more room to move and create less congestion, it's going to get even better. And then we'll continue to revisit this. It's organic, but so fair warning, it's about to come.
So I appreciate everybody who's gotten together to try to solve issues up there. I mean, certainly we cannot have the kind of incidents that we had, that we saw last year continue. My only concern here is, isn't bringing tow trucks onto King Street going to increase the stagnation problem?
The short answer to that is no. They're going to be moving cars out of the way that have been places of congregation, so they will get out. The first couple of days, I suspect there'll be some on the front end. Just so you know, the operations are going to be as follows. Parking will become illegal on Upper King Street in that corridor after 6 o'clock. Well, we're going to bag them at 4. Bagged at 4, right? The no parking will go into effect at 6, which it does. And then the tow trucks will muster at 6:30 and begin towing operations at 7. I spoke with Mr. Jennings yesterday. They're going to allocate 8 trucks. They're going to start southeast and northwest, and they'll move it pretty quickly. So it will not be dark. Congregation will not be quite like it would be at 10 or 11 o'clock at night. And again, we'll see how those operations go. But the whole idea is we don't want to tow a single car. We would like people to comply voluntarily. And by the way, if you're thinking we're taking away a pile of parking that otherwise would be available to patrons up there, we're not. There's only 70 spaces included in this corridor, 70. There are, I mean, innumerable people coming in and out of there, employees, patrons, and the like. So there's still plenty of opportunity for parking. We'll have parking enforcement officers up there. We don't want to tow anybody. So I don't believe, and please come join us on Thursday, the 9th. We'll be up there keeping an eye on it. I think this is going to make it way better. And certainly our public safety team, led by Captain Bruder, believes that too. And we, back in May of 2021, we looked at our public safety team and said, what do you need from us? And we gave it to them. And this is one of the tools that finally they're going to implement.
That word's gonna get out.
Oh, anyone? Is my mic working? Okay. Councilmember Bowden, did you have a follow-up? And then I'll go to Councilmember Shade.
I do, and I'm not gonna make any particular secret about this. I don't like this idea one bit. It increases the chances for confrontation. People come out there, see their car getting towed, they start getting into confrontations with tow truck drivers. This happens over and over and over again, right? I bet that the tow companies will have trucks lined up because we are handing them a pile of money. Which is crazy. They have no problem getting that money on their own. I don't personally understand why we wouldn't just say, let's pass out a $200 fine. That escalates in 14 days or whatever, like the regular parking tickets do. Then at least we would be putting that money in our own pocket to be able to use for further public safety goals. I don't believe that it's going to be as quick as it's being painted as. I'm sure a lot of people have thought about this. I just wasn't one of those people. And I want to point out that I just make clear that I think this is a terrible idea for a number of reasons.
Councilmember Shade.
And thanks for that report, Mr. Chairman. In the past, in these 3,700 or so tickets that were issued, so I presume what's happened is that these cars park, they get ticketed and they just stay there. I mean, and that's what happens. I mean, they're willing to pay the fine and then they just hang out there. And you hit the nail on the head. The real problem out there, and I've had these conversations with Chief Reynolds, is this tailgating atmosphere. And that's what's going on. They are out there. These folks are out there partying. They're hanging out in the back of the car. They're flaunting open containers. They're flaunting drug dealing going on out there. It's an ongoing problem. I share your concern about the confrontation. And I think that, the number one problem is you don't want to increase the confrontation aspect of this, but I don't know any other way of doing it, quite frankly. You've got to get these cars out of there. What has been the merchants' response to the parking exclusion out there so far? And how are they going? I mean, there may be people out there who just want to park and they go, what the heck, I'll just pay the fine and be out there. But what has been sort of the merchants and restaurant folks out there's reaction to there's no parking zone?
So I'll let Meg answer that, but I'm up there a good bit too. I can tell you, I mean, I have not heard anything particularly negative about it. And by the way, just so you know, it's not a regular parking ticket up there. It's $45. And we've given out 3,767 of them. So, but the businesses have not come out, and I think that they've been very supportive of the changes we've made on Upper King Street because it's made it safer. And that's what this is all about. This is about safety, period. And I hear you about the confrontation issue. You go up there on King Street, I'll show you some confrontation going on up there. It's brutal. And with those cars parked there and the congregation going on, some of the confrontation is flat out scary with the police officers. Get one police officer up there and 20 people circling them. It's nutty. This is just another way to give some flow and give some protection to the businesses and our officers. So
Some
Meg,
space.
she deals with them every day.
Meg.
Yes, so what I hear from the late night establishments, the ones most impacted by this, they really appreciate it. They feel very supported by public safety. I do appreciate that the plan has been adjusted to start towing a little bit later. The daytime brick and mortars that usually close around 5 or 6, they've had a little bit trouble adjusting to this. So I think this does give them a little bit more grace.
So this is a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I think and I'm glad you're doing that. I disagree with you, Councilman, about it, but I'm glad that we're doing this, and I think it's probably overdue. But I would recommend and suggest that we get an update that maybe 3 months or 4 months on what's the progress with this and see how this is going and see what kind of reaction we're getting from this.
So I forgot to add in my report that as in our meeting yesterday, we asked that this item be on every single TNT agenda going forward every time.
Good.
And we get an update every time. And we will report out to this council every time.
And my last question is, if I may just finish this, Mr. Mayor. Where are we with our overnight parking rigs and heavy equipment trucks? I know there's an ordinance we've been floating out there, but Julia's mentioned something to me, but is that coming for your committee anytime soon?
So to quote Councilmember Appel, I have to admit, I have no earthly idea.
Here's the answer.
Here we go.
Here's the
Legal-
answer.
The legal department is working on a draft. It's been circulated. We've received comments. We plan to have it to committee in February.
Thank you.
All right. So
That's your
next,
answer.
I had seen before I saw you, Councilmember Saccharin, Mitchell, and then Gregory.
Thank you, Mayor. I certainly understand Councilman Seeking's the late night ordinance, the police visibility, the one-way traffic. Why are we switching over from enforcing tickets to more of a tow policy? That's the first question. And, we tout the number of 3,700 tickets and we're proud of that. I've talked to several people that are business owners in the city that have gone out, not late night, just regular restaurant, and walked out and had a $50 ticket on their car. So I think there's something to say that I'm not sure if it was an overreaction to some of the violence. I asked the mayor on a conversation we had on Saturday, did we model this any other city doing this? Again, the late night ordinance, the changes to the one-way traffic and the increased presence, I fully support. I still don't understand why we are removing parking spots and what that has to do with public safety. I don't understand the nexus there yet.
So the short answer to that is, again, stagnation and clearing. Again, I would encourage you to go up and see with those cars, particularly in the 500 block and the 400 block on Upper King Street at night, it is a tailgate park.
Why?
And that's the reason. So, and I can tell you, we're not proud and bragging about the number of tickets. What we're showing is people just haven't been paying attention to our requests from our public safety team to make King Street safer. And that's what this is all about, making it safer. It has been rough up there. I mean, we are all adults around this table. There's been some incidents up there. We're not overreacting. When you've got people getting shot walking down the street, innocent bystanders, which has happened, that's a problem. And when our public safety team comes and says to us, here are some of the tools that we think we have in our arsenal that we want you to support, we got to support them. And
But
I do.
It should be mirrored in.
I'm sorry, Councilmember Gregory. Councilmember Sacrum has the floor. I'm going to get to you after Mitchell. Yep.
And the point of order to me is Saccharin, Mitchell, Gregory, Seekings. I understand he was responding, but still, we do have some rules on the books in terms of when people are supposed to talk.
We're allowing some conversation to occur and answering the question. That was what prompted Councilmember Seeking's response, which I thought was appropriate. Back to you, Councilmember Saccharin.
Thank you, Mayor. I did ask Councilman Seekings for clarification.
Yep.
A part of this for me is, are we becoming too punitive and penalizing those that are actually trying to just go out to have a dinner on a Friday night, coming back and seeing a $50 ticket on their car? Because that has happened several times and I've heard from several folks. Now, if we do move forward with this, I would ask that we do a robust communications plan, because what I'm hearing is I didn't see the sign. These are folks that work in the industry saying, I didn't know that they gave tickets. People coming out, seeing a ticket on their car. If we're doing anything to try to improve business back downtown, I don't think that's sending the best message to folks visiting from out of town, or even folks that live in Charleston and want to go out downtown that say, I'm not going to go to Mount Pleasant today. I'm going to take a trip downtown, and they leave with a $50 ticket. It doesn't do much for our F&B industry downtown.
Right.
I think there's a middle ground here. I just want to make sure that if we are doing something, that we are communicating it. There's signage, people are aware of it. And the other piece of this that I've heard from several folks is that the bouncers in the businesses are the ones coming out telling patrons, hey, you can't be parking there, which is great. But the meter folks that are walking around aren't saying anything to anybody. I think as a city, it's our responsibility that our staff be helpful and not be inclined to want to write the ticket right from the get-go, but at least give a warning to the citizen to say, hey, listen, it's a no parking.
Right.
Sometimes that doesn't occur that way. And I think we're often incentivizing just priority, like, let's write a ticket,
Right.
which it shouldn't be. It should be, here's the warning, here's the situation.
Meg's going to make sure all the bouncers know. And that's why we're going to put bags back on the meters when we start this, with a sign on the bag that says towing tonight. Councilmember Mitchell.
Yes, Mayor, I understand the rationale of the towing, because I saw it, we were talking about this all the time, the towing, and I just wondered how they was going to do it in the beginning. I said, are they going to have a bunch of tow trucks down here towing these cars? And the problem is that when all this happens, it's all going to come to me, because I represent that area. It's going to come to me, and I'm on King Street. So now I hope that you are going to have a barricade in front of my house when these people get angry and come on King Street down the street. And because see, people might think that I'm being foolishness when I'm saying. I know it, I'm out there. It could get dangerous for some of the people who get angry because it's going on. And I'm right on King Street and they come down. I drive down King Street. It's a mess on King Street. I drive down there because I have to go to church that way. It's a mess. And then you have some businesses down there that do what they call these things when they come to pick up food and DoorDash and all that. They come and pick up food from these different establishments there. So what's going to happen to them? when they have to drive there and pick up these food from these establishments, from these restaurants, who doing the DoorDash, where are they gonna park? Are they be able to pull up there and park there and pick up the packages or whatever they have to pick up and take back to the to whoever ordered these things? There's a lot of parts that I think we have not even looked into, because those things are happening. They do DoorDash down there, whatever they call it, and it's going to be some problems, and I know it's going to be some problems. I'm out there in that street, like I said, I'm out in that streets at 12 or 1 o'clock at night. I'm out there. It's going to be some problems. The mayor's going to be some problems, and I can see it coming. It will be some problems, and I'm just afraid that it's going to venture down on King Street where I live, because I'm right up the street. And they think, oh, that's Councilman Mitchell right up the street up there. He the one had something to do with this. You know, most of you don't live around in that area. You know, but I'm right up there, and I driving through King Street and hear me in the sign, sitting in the car, everybody parking the street, everybody walking across. They don't pay attention to the cars. These young people, whoever's out there, they could care less what you're doing. And I'm driving slow, just looking around to see what's going on and see what's happening. But it's going to be a mess. It's going to be some problems. I can see it coming. See, I look at visions way ahead. I just don't look at what's happening now. What can happen tomorrow? And this is what I'm looking at. And I'm looking at safety is for me also, because I represent that area on King Street from Calhoun Street all the way back down, all the way up to Rosemount. And they're calling me already. And I'm just saying, this is what they're talking about, towing cars. They said, towing cars, they're not telling you all that, but they're telling me. You see, so I'm hearing it. And that's why I said, I don't know when they're going to do it, how they're going to have the tow trucks there to pull all these cars off of the streets. It's going to be a mess. And then when the first time something happened or someone comes to my house with this foolishness, then y'all might see me on the news. I'm telling you, I'm being very, very serious, because I see things out there and I see the elements that's out there, and I know how some of these people react. If their car is towed to Jennings, and I go up there back and forth, but I know what's going to happen on that King Street. So I'm saying, be very careful. I said, be careful what we're doing and how we're going to do it. And soon, when they come back, I'm going to be right back with this council and say, see what I told you what's going to happen? Now, how are we going to deal with it? That's a safety net too. So I don't know how to deal with this yet, with the towing part of it. I'm mixed emotion with that portion of it.
Right.
I know something needs to be done.
Yeah.
I know it has to be done because they have a lot of problems there. But I'm looking at what's going to happen here too, since I'm living right down there and they're calling me now because I represent that area on King Street. I represent that area.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, sir. Councilmember Gregory and then Greg.
We can't have our cake and eat it too. I'm a strong believer in enforcement. And I do believe that when you set examples, others follow. We're not going to be towing trucks for the next year. I would imagine that when this is done once, it's over. Okay, it's over. And secondly, as we enforce parking downtown, what about the squatter trucks West Ashley? Why can't we use the same approach, okay, to ticket the squatter trucks that you've been talking about for the last 2 or 3 weeks? We're talking enforcement. And if we're talking enforcement, we need to be consistent. They're legally parked, okay? Ticket them. If that doesn't work, tow them. They're squatting. They're squatter trucks. And if anybody reads the Uptown from the Municipal Association, there's a large section in there on squatter trucks. We're not alone, Councilman. So the point I'm making is I believe in enforcement. You do 2 or 3 of them, the others will follow, but we need to be consistent with our enforcement policy and make sure that it's not just downtown, that West Ashley is experiencing some problems with truck squatting. Let's get rid of the truck squatters as well.
Thank you, sir. Councilmember Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We already have a problem. So we mentioned that this is going to create a problem, that we already have a problem. So to Councilmember Gregory's point, this should make the problem much more abbreviated. There are signs on every single one of those meters. If you park in front of one of those meters on King Street, you know you are violating the parking ordinance. It says where you go, put your card in the meter, the parking is prohibited from 6 p.m. on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. I know because I went down there Thursday night and I wanted to grab one of those prime parking spaces, and then I read the little sign and I had to move. So, but I did watch somebody pull in right behind me and take that exact same parking spot, probably because they didn't care because they were going to get a $45 ticket. So
Or maybe they didn't see the sign.
this is going to take one weekend. That's going to be really hard, and then people are going to start obeying the law.
We hope so. Councilmember Waring.
You know, Charleston has a brand. And how would you define the Charleston brand? I know one thing is that it's a safe city. It's perceived nationally and internationally as being a safe city. And you're right, Councilman Greg, we got a problem. You know, you didn't mention the big fight and people got stabbed and things like that. We are one tragedy away on Upper King Street from damaging that Charleston brand for a long period of time. And our law enforcement professionals are asking us for additional measures. I'm gonna support this. I hear you on the ticket. I understand that. When I get tickets in this town, anyway, it makes me angry, okay? That said, if I went down there at night, many of y'all know Frank McCann. He served as our chairman of planning commission for over 3 decades. And you talk about a loyal citizen. He invited me once to come and look at the crowd on King Street after 12 o'clock. Because I'm not on King Street after 12 o'clock. I was shocked at the size of the crowd. And you're right, nobody pays attention to cars in the street. They just walk indiscriminately back and forth like it is a tailgate. The problem with some of these cars, they have guns in them. And drugs. So this is a step that I think that at least goes, you know, if that one tragedy happens down there, people are gonna say, why didn't you do better? And we're gonna wish we had done better and followed the advice of our professionals. You know, we had a riot a couple of years ago. And we had law enforcement out there. But the very next night, there was a fear across this city. What would happen next? But I got to tell you, the show of force that was presented from our law enforcement and surrounding law enforcement, that team approach, Mr. Mayor, I think the bad actors looked at that and said, you know, I ain't coming back tonight. And our city saw a peaceful night that Sunday and ensuing nights afterwards. So I think this is a step that, let me tell you, these bars used to be open almost 24 hours till 4. And for some of you all new people, those of us who supported closing it to 2 o'clock, at 2 o'clock, and each bar, they had, you know how you have the FBI 10 most wanted? They had our pictures. They had our council member pictures. But we voted through that and passed the ordinance to close the bars earlier. Every city should have a quiet time, okay? So I'm gonna support this. I think it's a great suggestion on behalf, and I agree with these colleagues. After you get told, you know, once, maybe twice, you ain't coming back.
Anything to add to your report?
Just to wrap it up, I just want to address Councilmember Mitchell because I hear you. I mean, he lives on King Street. He's out there, we're out there. But I think that one thing has been said, and it's interesting, Councilmember Mitchell, you brought up DoorDash. Because I tell you, when those 8 tow trucks show up on Thursday night, you're going to see a DoorDash, all right. And it's going to be people running out to go grab their cars to get them out of there. And I do think once we do this for a couple of nights, it will work. And again, we're going to report this back weekly if we have to make sure that we do this the right way. And it's all about public safety. And if it doesn't work,
We'll
We'll
change.
admit it, we'll change it.
We'll do something different,
So
but we're going to try it.
that concludes for tonight, my report,
The special committee meeting,
the special committee. Yeah.
special meeting. All right, thank you so much and glad that everyone's aware of this matter.
So there was a motion on the floor to approve the report.
A motion on the floor to approve the report. I
Yes.
didn't catch that, but if there is, all right,
There was already a motion.
okay. Okay. We're just approving the report, really taking it for information. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, our Committee on Public Works and Utilities, Councilmember Waring.
Mr. Mayor, we met on Monday. That committee did all actionable items passed unanimously. There were two permanent encroachments that we need to take a motion on to approve. They passed unanimous and I move the adoption of the report.
All right. Any discussion? Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Chairman, can you give me an employee kind of update? I know that wasn't on the agenda, but how are we looking as far as employees?
Good
Trucks.
good question. We did get an update from Mr. Altop and Mr. O'Brien on hires. We actually hired a number of people in the sanitation department. I think a couple of truck drivers and other operators. I think it was either 5 to 7, and we have about another 12 or so to go. But everything's being picked up doing the environmental services update. This came out. Trash is being back on normal schedule as it was prior to when they were at full staff. And they're doing yeoman's work over there. So you know anybody in environmental services, give them an attaboy because they're doing a good job.
Thank you.
And we did get a couple of boom trucks. When I mean boom trucks, you know, the trash truck that comes through and you got that arm that swings and picks it up. We got, I think, 3 of those.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Appel and then Shayad.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And just to add on to what Chairman Waring just said, Matt Altop also reported that they're fully back on schedule and they're not behind when it comes to trash and garbage pickup, things of that nature. And he also mentioned that one of the reasons why we're seeing more applications and more onboarding in this department is because of the budget we passed last year. Because it turns out it's easier to hire people when you pay them. So that's what we were talking about last fall. And it's great to see that that's already in the
Right.
works and a lot of positive things going in the public service department. Those guys and gals deserve a lot of credit for what they do.
Thank you for that comment.
So, and I'm going to shout out to Councilmember Appel. He wasn't expecting this, but he and his wife and mama, once again, about 6 weeks ago, treated all of our public works employees to lunch. Whoever said there's no such thing as a free lunch, they provided free lunch to our workers out there. And I thank you for that. And they really appreciated it as well. Yeah.
Can I just say something real quick to
Yeah.
that? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We actually raised so much money from my constituents for that lunch for the public service department. We threw a pizza party for our Parks and Recs department last Friday. So we were able to go even further. And I think I was joking with somebody that if each of us around this table did that, we can do one a month for our staff all around the city. So it's not that hard. I mean, our constituents were very generous and supported that. And it was a lot of fun to do that. And we look forward to doing it in future years.
Great. Councilmember Shea.
I'm just surprised that your wife approved of a pizza party. But I just want to echo something that Councilmember Waring said about the response from our public service folks. So Thursday afternoon, I get a phone call from one of my constituents that we had bypassed her house and picking up her garbage. So I immediately text Matt within an hour. Within an hour, that truck was out there and collected that truck. So that's just the level of dedication. I think, and Matt just does a terrific job, and he's on here, but he's very responsive to our calls and stuff. And I just wanted to put that on the record tonight and thank him for it. And that has repeated itself. I can't tell you a number of times that he is making sure that we get those trucks back out there.
Thank you. All right, we have a motion on the floor to approve 2 permanent encroachments. All right, any discussion on those? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. And next up is our Committee on Ways and Means. All right, were any of those items amended or it was all straight away? All right. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next bill's up for second reading. We have 11 of them. And the first one was amended. So I'll entertain a motion
Move for
to
approval 1 through 11 as amended. Number one.
amended.
Second.
Do we have a second?
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from item number 3, but I'm voting approval on all the remaining.
Okay. Have one recusal and another one on that same item, number 3. Correct. All right. And I guess I will repeat, well, I'll come back to it in a minute. Any other comments, questions on items 1 through 11 for second reading? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Now,
Mr. Mayor,
yes, sir.
I'd like to note that I'm voting yay on 1 through 10 and nay on 11.
Nay on 11 for Councilmember Brady, Councilmember Parker,
I am nay on number 1 and number 11.
nay on 1 and 11. Okay, now for third reading and
Second.
ratification. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it.
I'd like to record my vote as same on the previous.
Same for Councilmember Brady and Parker.
Thank you.
And the same recusal for.
And same
Councilman Rainey.
refusals. And I mentioned this during Ways and Means, but I recused myself from the last Ways and Means item on the agenda tonight. All right, so next we have Madam Clerk, would you like a motion for us to withdraw items 12 and 13?
Yes, please.
So moved.
Second.
Second, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we have bills up for first reading. I think we do have item number 1, an ordinance to
Move for
amend
approval number 1.
Chapter 2, Administration. This is adoption of ordinances. May I ask Councilmember Brady, who served on that Rules
Yep.
Committee, to
Yes.
present to us?
Yes, so Mr. Mayor, we, after discussing with staff, and wanting to make sure that what was discussed and deferred at the last meeting regarding committee appointments, the Rules Committee would like to report out the total package. So with 3 weeks between this council meeting and the one in February, we're going to schedule an ad hoc Rules Committee meeting in order to proceed with that. And then the recommendation on the, as I've nicely called it, the how a bill becomes a law proposed by a council member will be included, as well as what comes out of the committee regarding the committee appointment process. So we can just give this first reading. Those will come in as amendments on second reading, and then we can move forward with it. That way we can go ahead and give it first reading, amend it, and move forward.
All right, is that satisfactory to everyone? Any further discussion or questions?
Mr. Mayor, who is the second? I have Councilmember Mitchell made the motion. All right, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor? Oh, Councilmember Parker.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Can I just ask some of the folks who have been here a long time? I mean, this seems sorry, I mean, I don't know how else to say it. Sorry. Y'all have been seasoned with city council. Does this seem, I understand, I mean, this certainly streamlines the process. I remember a meeting in particular, but does this seem, appropriate to the previous way that things were being done? I guess that's my question. I mean,
Honestly-
is it we're the law right as it sits right now? I mean, we're allowed to bring an ordinance regardless. Now, if that might not have been the case for me, but right now a council member can bring an ordinance, and now we're bringing, we can't do that anymore. We're taking that away. Well, I mean, we're bringing it to council, and then the ordinance will be drafted. So I'm just asking.
Well, there's multiple routes as part of this, but it's codifying it so that rather than it just being a kind of norm that we have, it'll actually be in a law, like in the city ordinance, on the rules of council, this is how it works. So that when it's not us around this table, it's formalized. Because the great thing about laws is that we write them down. So we're just going to write down the process for how that.
I mean,
works.
and I understand for the sake, for the sake of time, for our staff's time, for sure, but I was just curious.
Councilmember Gregory, can you choose my, thank you.
How to submit legislation.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah, that's the
and-
main-
right. And we've always had rules and procedures on how that is supposed to be done. And I'd like, yes. we-
I don't think so.
Oh, I thought we did. We don't? In
That's the
terms of
reason
how-
that's why we developed these, because there were none.
Oh, perhaps it was just understood.
It's
It was a law that wasn't written down.
No,
Okay, okay.
no, I'm
Okay.
with you, Councilmember Gregory.
I guess I need to go back and read it again, but I thought that there was a specific process of how legislation is supposed to be.
Yeah, and it all came from the administration
Oh,
and not from council members. So this whole policy really empowers council members to have a,
I've submitted legislation before.
Protocol.
I mean, the whole.
But that's not currently in the code of ordinances on how you would do that.
You have to go through legal. You can't even get to this body without even coming to legal.
There was a lack of clarity on how it helps staff as well.
Okay, perfect.
Yes.
Okay, because nothing, as far as I know, in terms of ordinances, come to this body without it going through legal.
Right.
It's
It's just,
for legal to take a look at it and to do whatever is necessary to make it legal. So
understood.
that's where I'm a little confused. because
Right.
I've never known an ordinance to come from this body
Mm.
and go right to this body for vote without it going through our legal process.
I think
I've
this,
never heard of it in my life.
more than anything, this clarifies how it gets to legal
Okay,
for staff and for this body.
okay.
that's
And-
right.
And there, and oftentimes, the legislative branch
Mhm.
will ask legal to draft an ordinance,
Yes, sir.
based upon some ideas that legislator might have.
Mhm.
That hasn't changed, has it?
You saying the legislative body or the legislator?
Legislator.
It changes as far as how it's presented to council. Council gives the blessing or committee gives the blessing to draft the legislation to bring it back to council.
So it has to go through, well, yeah, it goes through committee anyway.
Yes, sir.
Always have, okay, that's not new.
It's just spelled out more clearly.
Oh, okay, y'all just want to make sure that what we do
Mhm.
is written down.
Yes, sir.
Fine.
Councilmember Shea.
I think what happened, and I'm gonna give Councilman Bowden some credit for this. I think he had brought this idea up as things were being generated. That we have an opportunity to make sure what we're voting on. And so this is things we've been complaining about transparency and advance warning. This is codifying those concerns and complaints. I think collectively we have brought up in this part of the year. So this is, I think, a very good step forward. It's going to make clarity a key component of all this. So this is something we need to support.
Council-
We already did.
Councilmember Waring.
Well, Mr. Mayor, I agree with this, but in particular, when it comes to this, the piece that I brought to council at the last meeting about council committee standing appointments. I think the ad hoc committee process is not conducive for that change to come to legal. Because what actually happened, we may not like it, but this is a fact. I brought that up at the ad hoc committee meeting in July. We didn't have another meeting until September, brought it up again. We didn't have another meeting again until mid-December, brought it up a third time. And when I tried to actually actually it was Councilmember Bowden. I mean, when I discussed how it would work and he was favorable thinking, well, I think that's okay moving this forward to come to council. The mayor brought up a point of order and said that this wasn't on the agenda. The chairperson of the ad hoc committee ruled in favor of old business not coming forward to council. So in an ad hoc committee that's actually appointed by the mayor, prevented that discussion about us having some say-so in what standing committees we would serve on, actually coming to this floor. But for council communications, we wouldn't have had that conversation, last week. In Columbia and in Washington, there are times you're saying things to committees to die. I had this conversation with Councilmember Appel after our last meeting. That's a process that we should have some say-so, and I want to debate it again on the floor, but now you're asking the same issue to go back to ad hoc committee that voted against bringing it even to the floor to be discussed. So as a person, at least 3 of the, may have been 4, I don't know. But after the ruling by the chair that the point of order that it wasn't advertised and what couldn't come forward to council, what kind of frustration you think I felt as a council member that to have a discussion among colleagues, a transparent conversation among colleagues on the people's floor was blocked. Obviously, I disagreed with the point of order. The chairman, that was in his purview under Robert Rules of Order. But how many more times would that happen in an ad hoc committee where one person appoints all the members? Because right now, as I go back with that idea, and within 3 weeks, I still have the same colleagues on that ad hoc committee that voted, the majority of them, not to even defer it for discussion. That's what happened 2 weeks ago. So the members of the let the clerk, not now, but check the vote on being able to defer talking about the standing committee process even further. Let's defer it and talk about it a little bit more. The people that recorded the vote that voted no, we don't need to talk about this anymore. That's the majority of this, that's the majority of the ad hoc committee that I have to go back into to say, let me tell you why I think this is a good idea. There's something wrong with that. Now, we are the body to fix that.
We have a motion on the floor right now regarding item M1. And I hear you, but can we take care of this piece of business and then we can discuss other matters?
But Mr. Mayor, I still had the floor, and I understand wanting to move it forward, but we're talking about the chairman of that committee is talking about, let's get together on the next 3 weeks. And I'm telling you, we have a problem with that process that I'm going to go back into with an idea that if I were to guess at it, probably be voted down to come forward.
Well, it would still come to council after it's
After it's voted down.
after it's voted down and if it gets voted.
I hear you,
down. I
Mr.
don't
Mayor.
know.
I hear you, Mr. Mayor.
And then it's
withdraw.
up to the council as a whole to agree with the committee or not.
And you're right about that.
The
You're right.
council doesn't have to agree
You're
with
right
the
about that.
committee.
Withdraw. Yes.
So I think you'll have adequate opportunity to
I hope and pray.
to vet that idea. Councilmember Seekings and then Parker.
Just very briefly, I'm just wondering, do we need to give this first reading night, or shouldn't this all come back to as a package? I mean, the whole rules. I mean, if there's going to be other things, I mean, is giving this first reading really doesn't do much. Let's bring it back as a package, and so everyone can sort of see it as one, as opposed to doing it ad hoc. Little legislative joke there, didn't go over very well, but anyway, I just.
Piecemeal, maybe? But this seemed like a separate topic. Councilmember Parker and then back to Brady.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Gregory, again, this is why I posed that question, because I have read the ordinance and I understand that I see what you're doing, you know, with the detailing, how these come to council, but that's, or, you know, with the rules committee, but that's why I asked some of y'all. I mean, the way I read it, a proposed ordinance shall be introduced in writing and in the form required for final adoption. City council shall by ordinance establish its own rules and procedures to the adoption of ordinances, which again is what you're trying to create. But what I'm asking is, doing this eliminates a council member from going to legal, creating an ordinance and bringing it to council. Does that, in the years that you've been here, is this appropriate? I'm not saying I'm not opposed to this. And the way that I read it, that's the way that I read the ordinance, correct? I mean, that's that's the way I read 224 right now. So I would, again, that's why I posed the question to y'all, because that's the way I read it. And so this new, with this, we are then removing that ability. So I'm just asking our, as you call them, y'all, as you call yourselves, our senior members, your opinion on that.
All right, Councilmember Brady.
Yeah, no, thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I was just going to point out that when we decided to, at Councilmember Bowden's suggestion, create the ad hoc rules committee, it was completely voluntary who wanted to serve. I mean, formally appointed by the mayor, but it was just people volunteered to serve on it. So it's not like there's a cabal that rose up and is opposing everything. Like, that's not how the process happened at all. It was a voluntary committee. But part of legislating is that you will be on the end of losing votes and you'll be on the end of winning votes. So, I mean, that's just how legislating works. And so, you know, to the mayor's point, the council doesn't have to accept the recommendation, but the committee will conclude its work. The item got deferred and referred to committee. We will have a hearing. We will have it on there and we'll have a discussion on it. And then we'll report out for the rules package. Now, to Councilmember Seeking's point, we've done first reading and then amended stuff all the time. So if we're just offering amendments to what's in the current legislation, I would recommend that we give it first reading. Let's hash it out with the committee report at the next one, and then we just move along. So that's my thought.
Councilmember Bowden.
I'm probably belaboring the point here a little bit, but just this process, I think, would actually increase the likelihood of something passing that a individual member suggests, because it wouldn't just be, you know, one person goes to legal, ordinance comes up, and then all of a sudden it's in front of us and nobody has any understanding of where it came from. And I'm not saying I've even seen that happen while I've been here. It just, why? You know, like, why would we do that? When this is solely intended to put things in front of as many people for as much feedback as possible before it ultimately comes and is voted on by everyone. And that just seems to be, to me, the way that legislating works in every other area of our government. So this is intended to help us understand what we're looking at, what we're voting on better. And maybe that was a problem that only I was dealing with, but it was a problem that I was dealing with. And
Right.
You know, that's not the way that I would like participate in policymaking.
So I'll just share from my perspective as mayor that this sets a protocol that allows everyone to bring forth ideas and legislation to the body. To best of my knowledge, prior to something like this getting passed, the only official rules that we had was that the mayor was in charge of the agenda. And I won't speak for my predecessor, but some of y'all were around back then, and I think that unless you called the mayor and had his permission to get on the agenda, for most part, it never got there unless it happened and he just wanted it. So this allows a protocol to exist that really shares this legislative responsibility among us and just sets up a protocol for that to happen. And yes, in the past, different members might have called legal or someone else, but it wasn't established in the rules of council. So this just sets the stage for that protocol to exist. Do I basically have that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed, the ayes have it.
All right, so there were 3 nays for the record, Councilmember Gregory, Waring, and Parker, and Councilmember Mitchell. You were a nay? Okay.
Terrific. All right, so now we have a couple executive sessions for to begin condemnation proceedings to facilitate Barberry Woods drainage project and to acquire properties for the Church Creek flood storage basin.
And Mayor, prior to any action, council has already adopted or blessed both of these items through the adoption of the Real Estate Committee agenda, the Ways and Means, and Public Works. So if there's anyone who would like to go into executive session to hear more about this,
Would
you're welcome
anybody
to,
like to go
but
into
that will not be
executive
necessary.
session to find out more about what we already passed? All right, so then there'll be, I think this has gotten rescheduled, the city council workshop meeting.
Yes, sir. So
Madam
the
Clerk,
Parks and Recreation Master Plan Workshop that was scheduled for Thursday has been rescheduled for Tuesday, February 21st at 3:00. And that was so some of the lobbyists could attend. That was mentioned in one of our earlier meetings.
all right. That's right.
That's the
We'll-
same
we'll just
workshop. Yes.
Roll that. What date was that again?
Tuesday, February 21st at 3.
21st. Okay, so our next regular city council meeting should be a love fest. It's on Valentine's Day, February 14th. Is there any further business to come before us tonight? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you.